So I've recently had some people asking me to do flip throughs for the Charlotte Mason elementary arithmetic books, specifically for books 3 and 4, because apparently those are kind of tough to find on YouTube. So today we're gonna go ahead and do the flip through for book number 3. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just gonna say, please excuse my voice because I am on the tail end of being sick. But you can see that it has these little ribbon bookmarks. One of ours has gotten a little worse for wear, and I had to put a bit of tape on it to keep it from unraveling the rest of the way. So that is something that can be a little bit frustrating with these, but it's not too bad. So just doing a quick flip through before a more in-depth one. We have the starting page here. An introduction, kind of some setup stuff as a teacher. These books will always start with review. So that is what is at the beginning of this one before going into lessons that they have not done yet. Covering multiplication. It breaks down all the different tables, I think starting with either 6 or 7 and going up from there to 10. Also working on some division, including long division. You'll also notice that I have some pencil marks in here. Fractions. Different things with time and measurement are also in here. And then in the back, there are also exam questions. Okay, so now taking a little bit of a closer look, I'm gonna go back to the table of contents for you. So in here, you'll see that there are introductory pages, arithmetic concepts that'll be covered in book 3, an overview of the lessons, supplies needed, review from book 2 is where your student starts. And of course, if you've just come out of book 2, like if you're not in the middle of a summer break or something like that before you go on to book 2, then you can just either skip that section, or if there's things that you think would be beneficial to go ahead and review again, then you can go ahead and do that. I usually will go ahead and do at least some of the review with them before moving on to the next book. Addition with large numbers and subtraction with large numbers, multiplication, division, fractions, weights and measures, extra mental arithmetic, and then finally those exams. So I'm not going to show you guys every single page in here or anything, but I do kind of at least want to show you what a section looks like. So when you get to addition with large numbers, for example, this is your introduction page as the parent. So it has some stuff for you to read just to kind of prepare you for what the lessons are about to be about. It also tells you when there is a video. I don't personally have the videos, so I'm not watching any of those. They probably would be helpful. So far, I haven't come to a spot where I really felt like we needed them, but they probably would be very helpful. So if you have the videos, then it tells you exactly when you should watch one. And those videos, from my understanding anyways, are specifically for the parent to help you prepare for the lesson, see how the flow of it should be, that sort of thing. They're not videos for the kids, as far as I understand at least. So then, when you come to a new lesson, this is your lesson header. It will give you tips throughout the lesson in italics. It gives a sample. So for example, the first one here, right off the bat, it's going to go ahead and tell you exactly what objects you're going to need for this lesson. So this is one where we were working with $10 bills, dollar bills, dimes, and pennies. And those dollar bills are not actual real ones. They're ones that come in the math box if you get those. And if you don't, you can just choose to use any paper money. And then as far as the coins go, I have coins that we use for school that are actual dimes, nickels, pennies, quarters, all that. So everything here gives you instructions for what you're supposed to do. So read aloud the equation below and have your student speak through the process as she solves it using $10 bills, dollars, dimes, and pennies. So This is the part then that I would actually read to my daughter. Arav bought a model ship for $55.12 and a model airplane for $34.23. How much did he give for both? And then from that point forward, the majority of things are going to be to you as the parent. And it's showing you how the problem would be set up, how it looks. It gives all answers in the book, so you're not trying to scramble and figure them out before your child or just at the same time as your child. So it kind of does a lot of the work for you. And then once you've done that practice problem together, then you go into the section that is for the sums. So for the actual problems that you'll be working. These are ones that they are working with manipulatives the entire time. There are other lessons in the book where they might be writing into their math notebook and you could check it later. Certainly once you get up to book 4, which I'll show in a separate video, there will be a lot of independent work starting in that one. For this level, I did go ahead and have my daughter earlier this year go ahead and put some of them in her math notebook and work them without me, but this is not one of those lessons where I would have done that. Now, it does go ahead and give us the tip that the student can go ahead and write numbers 5 through 10 here in their math notebook after solving, keeping her work as neat and orderly as possible. So it's still really wanting them to focus, at least in this lesson, mainly on the manipulatives and only write in the math notebook after they've been solved with manipulatives. It's a way to kind of ease them into problems that are strictly written and not as manipulative heavy. And again, this is at the beginning of this level 3 book here. So over here, it has the answers to all of those problems before going into the next lesson. So when we see the big italicized heading like this, then we know that that's the next lesson. For us, the lesson distinctions didn't necessarily matter as much as the amount of time that we were spending. So I would do around 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on the child's attention level and also just depending on the day. If it was a really tired type of day, I would have them do a little bit less work. But if it was a day where it felt like everything was going really smoothly, then we would just kind of keep on rolling. Sometimes I would split a lesson like this in half, also just kind of depending on their skill level and how quickly they were working through things. Sometimes we would end up doing the whole thing. It just kind of depends on the day and on the child. Let's look at some of the multiplication lessons so that you can see how those are handled. So this is doing multiplication for the number 9. So you start each of the multiplication lessons by doing the multiplication table for that number. And this is how the child would construct the multiplication table in their math notebook. So we have 1 times 9 is 9, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 9 is 27, and so on. So they're going to make their own that looks just like this, but in the grids of that math notebook, which, by the way, the math notebook is the only thing that you would need to continue to buy. So I can use this book for all of my children, and they each will just need a math notebook to be able to do their work like this in. Those are very inexpensive. I don't remember the exact price, but I will try to remember to do a screen recording and go ahead and put that up for you guys. So once they have constructed their multiplication table, they've set it through, they've written it in their math notebook, then we are going to go ahead and move on to practice with that table. So then I would ask my daughter each of these questions and have her answer. So just a few as an example: how many 9s are in 18? 9 times 8 is? 9 taken 6 times is? How many 9s in 81? How many 9s in 45? So really, we are just varying how it's worded each time to help our child know that that means multiplication, or in some cases division, which of course is still just multiplication, just knowing it backwards. There are 25 questions in that section. All of the answers are off to the side for you. Step 4 of these multiplication lessons is to work with larger multiplication by 9. So then you're going to start having 2 digits that you're multiplying by 9. You can work with objects as needed. I will say that my daughter didn't always want to do it with the objects. Sometimes she really just preferred to go ahead and write it, and I let her, because I get it. It's a lot quicker to just go ahead and write it it. And once you kind of know the concrete explanation behind what you're doing, then it can be a little bit frustrating to have to go slower to show all of it in a concrete way. So yeah, I let her write a good bit of these down on the slate. It wasn't really something that we needed in the math notebook. And if it was taking a while, you can see where I have a pencil mark showing where we stopped for the day so that I knew where to pick back up for the next lesson. There are the answers for that. Then we have review with 9 and previous tables, so multiplying by 9 and any of the others that have come before it, the answers for that as well. And then finally, a mixed review. And these sections are just so they continue to have practice with addition, subtraction, that sort of thing, and don't lose any of it. Okay, moving right along here. So some of these sections actually go together, even though it's its own standalone lesson. So for example, this one is called Long Division with a Pure Number, but it's the last one in a series about long division. So if we flip back to ones before it, here is long division with a small divisor using notation and objects. Before that, we had longer division with money. So we go from using objects to using notation, which is the written form, and objects, to then just focusing on long division with pure number. So the previous two sections would have used a lot of word problems. And in this section, since this is a pure number section, it's telling us that we're just going to be focusing on numbers in this one. There's not going to be a bunch of word problems. They're just going to give us a straightforward problem. 942 divided by 3. And so we would go ahead and work that through with our child, following all the steps laid out for us in the book. All of these. And then finally we make it to our sums. So again, none of them are word problems. They are just pure number problems. And you can walk your child through those, or if you feel confident that they can do it on their own, then you could have them do it as independent work as well. So for me, it just kind of depended on the day and the kid and the section, how well they were grasping it, that sort of thing. So each of these lessons is kind of like a step up, and it's going to be kind of layering and building to work them up into the type of long division that they're going to see in book 4. All right, so next up, some fraction work. So here I'm in the section on 1/5, and with all of these, we ended up just working orally. If your child needs manipulatives, then that's totally fine. You can use anything that can be divided into 5. They could also draw pictures if they need to, that sort of thing. My daughter had worked with fractions before, and so this wasn't super new to her. It was more kind of like review. And so I would just ask her the questions aloud and she would answer. Next, just really quickly want to show you the weights and measures section. So the first one that we get to is measures of time, and you are going to work with the calendar. There's a good bit of stuff there to actually read to your child instead of just instructions to the parent, which is different than in most sections. There's also some things that they have to copy into their math notebook. And then to keep them practicing, of course, we have more mixed review of the other things that they've learned throughout the book as well. We also talk about the clock as a measure of time. And then we move on to measures of length. We are specifically working with feet and inches in this book. And then we move on to measures of weight. This was a fun one. She really enjoyed being able to measure out different things. The math box actually comes with a kitchen scale, and so it was fun for her to actually get to measure out the things that we were talking about. And then we'll also go on to liquid measurements, specifically measurements of volume, so cups, pints, quarts, gallons, that sort of thing. And again, that was another fun one because they have all of those measures in the math box, and so she got to play with that a good bit. Dry measurement is also in here, again with the same types of things in cups. She was super excited when we got to this section because there is an actual apple cake recipe, and so she got to take her math lesson that day to make apple cake all by herself. She loves to cook and to bake, so that was a good time. And then we didn't actually do anything from this section, but if you feel that your child needs extra mental work, then there are plenty of extras back here in this section. All right, there you have it. That is book 3. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them down in the comments. I love to help you guys out in any way that I can. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithm so that other people who need it can find it. You all have a blessed day, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.